not supersonic, supertonic. Hi everybody, welcome back to NoPro Worship. My name is David Wesley. This is our third video in a little mini-series on the acoustic guitar and how it can fit into your worship team. This week we'll be talking about the key of G, and in future weeks we'll be going through the key of D, E, C, and A. We'll talk about some of the strengths and drawbacks of each of these keys and how they can provide different color for the songs that you're playing. So what does it mean to play in any particular key? In this case, G. Well, without getting into too much music theory or having to refer to a piano, playing in the key of G means that G is your home chord. It's your number one chord. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that your song starts in G or ends in G, or even that G is the most common chord in the song. But what it means is that the G chord is serving the function as the home chord. And that means that any other chords that are played in the song are in service to G. They're only making sense in relation to the G chord. So let's walk through some of the important chords that you have in the key of G and the roles that they play. As I said, the G chord when playing in the key of G is your home chord. It's also known as your number one or your tonic chord. It's an easy chord. You only have to put 3 fingers down. You get to play all 6 strings. It's a full sound. It's the first chord that many people learn when they learn the guitar. And there's a few variations of the G chord that you can play with just moving 1 finger at a time. You have your regular G major, you have G suspended, and you have your G5. Now, this might sound familiar as the introduction of Good Good Father. So after the home chord, or number one chord, the next most important chord to learn is the number 5 chord, also known as the dominant. So all you have to do is count up from G, our number one chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G, A, B, C, D. So our number 5 chord is D. It's another easy to learn chord. You only need 3 fingers to do it. The only difference is that playing it in its purest form, you actually have to start only on the top 4 strings, and you have to mute the bottom 2. Now, the number 5 chord plays a very important role because it's usually the second most common chord in a song, and it's also the chord that you most likely go to and from your number 1 chord. After your number 1 and number 5 chords, the next most important and most common chord is the number 4 chord. In the key of G, that's G, A, B, C. C is our number 4 chord, also known as the subdominant. Again, it's another easy chord to play with just 3 fingers. In its purest form, you do only the top 5 strings, though there are some other variations that have all 6 strings involved. And there are many, many songs that only have 3 chords in them, and those chords will be 1, 4, and 5. And that's because the way that they're related, you can go from any of those chords to either of the others in any order, and it will still sound just fine. Adding to this holy trinity of chords, 1, 4, and 5, we add a very special chord, the 6th chord. Now, because of the rules of key signatures, the number 6 chord is a minor chord, or a sad chord, in comparison with the major chords that 1, 4, and 5 were. In the key of G, this means that our 6th chord is G, A, B, C, D, E minor, also known as the submediant chord. Now in the guitar, the E minor is probably the single easiest chord to play because it only has 2 fingers. However, there are a number of variations to this chord that add a bit of color or just accentuate different notes, adding a 3rd or even a 4th finger, so it's quite flexible. Now, there's kind of a running joke, especially amongst classical musicians, that all modern music is based on just these 4 chords, 1, 4, 5, and 6. And to a great extent, this is actually true. There's an Australian group called the Axis of Awesome that does a song that combines many, many, many pop songs that are done in 4 chords. Just viewer discretion advised. I think there might be a naughty word or 2 in the video. You can click above or you can check the video description below. The last chord we'll talk about is the number 2 chord. Now, again, like the number 6, the rules of key signatures tell us that the number 2 chord will be a minor chord. In the case of G, the number 2 chord is G, A minor, also known as the supertonic, not supersonic, supertonic. And on the guitar, it's a very easy chord to play, just 3 fingers using the top 5 strings. You can play the bottom E string as well. It's in the chord, but it kind of takes away the strength from the low A. Now, a great variation of this chord actually only has 2 fingers down, and that is the A minor 7th. The 7th kind of blunts the sadness off of the minor chord. Now, this chord is great because it can often be done right after the tonic chord because it is 1 step up, and it does share a lot of notes with the number 4 chord, so you'll see a lot of times going to and from the 2 and the 4. So that's basically it. Your number 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 chords will be about 98% of all the chords you play in any modern worship song. Occasionally you'll see a number 3 chord. Very, very rarely you'll see a 7 chord. And anything outside of this doesn't actually belong to the key signature proper. Those chords will be put in intentionally to stand out and are often used as a transition into a different key, something known as a modulation. So in the key of G, again, we have 1, 2, 4, 5, and back to 1. There's a couple of really great things about the key of G that are worth mentioning. First of all, it's the only key where you can do all of your important chords, your 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, all without having to resort to those dreaded bar chords. And that's what makes this key very attractive to new players and to rusty players alike. It allows you to have very smooth transitions between the chords so that you don't have a choppy sound, especially with newer players. Now, the second great thing about the key of G is that it is populated with what I like to call close cousins. Each of those important chords has a close cousin, whether it's a 9th chord or a minor 7th chord, that you can make slight changes to the chords in the progression to create the smoothest transitions possible. I'm talking about moving maybe 1 finger to change chords. So the first time I encountered this was when I was learning a song from Jars of Clay, I Want to Fall in Love with You, speaking about God. And in the course of that song, I could tell that the chords weren't quite what I wanted them to be as a purist piano player, but it worked. And as I learned other songs and just listened to other music, I could tell, okay, this song was written by somebody playing in G on a guitar because it just creates a certain sound. So the way that the chord transitions in the course of that song, you go from a G5 to a C add 9 to an A minor 7th to an E minor to a D sus. So you're moving as few fingers as possible. So when you put it all together, I want to fall in love with you. I want to fall in love with you. So when I play in the key of G, it's almost exclusively using these close cousin chords. I find that the wide open sound in the very smooth transitions between the chords is really worth any cost that you might pay in terms of not playing the exact chords that your piano player might be expecting. In fact, if you look at some of my instrumental videos on YouTube, you'll see that I play in the key of G quite often and using this technique. God of wonders beyond our galaxy, you are holy, holy, you're a good, good Father, it's who you are, it's who you are, it's who you are, and I'm loved by you, so what can I say? What can I do? We go down to the right on its parade by the lights of the palace arcade and watch night coming down on the sovereign light. Faye. Thanks so much for tuning into this video on playing guitar in the wonderful, wonderful key of G. I make these videos because I believe that God's people deserve leaders that grow in knowledge, competence, and confidence. These videos are made possible by my patrons on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting this ministry, you can visit patreon.com/DavidWesley. Please join me next Friday as we talk about the even more wonderful key of E.